was December of 90. And turns out that I wrestled a team from Mexico, which would turn out to be Konnan and Rey Mysterio's uncle. We just called him Rey Mysterio. And the match went well. It went well. And what's ironic is sometimes, the saying goes, it doesn't, nice guys finish last. Well, Konnan came up with all these crazy Mexican spots that he wanted to do with Chris Adams. Chris looks at him and says, I'm not doing that. The crazy flips and flops and everything. So he came up to me and said, Norman, would you mind doing this and that? I said, it didn't make sense to me, but I figured, well, why the hell I'll do it. So we did it, and Konnan was happy with the match and the way it turned out, which he should have been because I put him over. And after that, Konnan was also a student of the sport at that time, and he was aware that I was wrestling in Japan.
Right.
So he asked me if I would be interested in going to Mexico to wrestle there. And I was somewhat reluctant because I always had the connotation that, there's no money in Mexico, and, I'm going to go there and waste my time. So when he told me what I could make there and he guaranteed it, I said, sure, let's go. And basically went there. Originally, I went there for a tour of 4 weeks, ended up staying for 4 years before I came home.
So before you went to Mexico, did anybody in WCW express interest in you at all? Or?
No.
It's just a one-match show?
Just a one-match show. I gave it my best shot. And, but back then, as I explained before, I have a tendency to lay back.
Right.
And have things come to me, which I guess is not the right way to be successful in a business. I made a couple of phone calls, but I could just tell that they weren't interested, so I didn't pursue it.
Now, when you went to Mexico, what was the company that you worked for down there, EMLO?
EMLO. Empresa Mexicana de Lucha Libre. That's my Spanish, guys. Good. I went there in 91, and that was just... It was a great experience because I went there at the peak of wrestling at that time. The style was completely different to American wrestling or the submission stuff that I was doing. And it was just a different experience wrestling all those different guys who all wore masks. In fact, my first match there, I'm in the locker room and we're going over the match with the guys, and obviously they all have the mask off. Right. Then you get in the ring, it's like, well, who are you my partner? I'm wrestling you. So it was just wild. And as I said, business was booming. It wasn't strange for me to wrestle 10, 12 times a week at that time. And it was a great stage of my life because I went there and just experienced new things, met great people, Vampiro, Chris Jericho came through, a bunch of guys came through, Val Venus, met all the Guerreros there, Hector, Mondo, Chavo, and it was just a great time.
Who helped you adjust to that style of wrestling? Who helped train you?
I could adapt easy because I was accustomed at that point because Dean Malenko, who I admire greatly, always expressed that, a great wrestler can wrestle on both sides. Right. So I can take an arm drag on the left side or the right side. I can go for the hamlock or lock up this way. That it didn't matter. I mean, in the beginning, it was a little weird, but over the course of maybe a month, it was like, bam, and I could do it. So the technical aspect wasn't a problem. It was the spots that they were called and the finishes, because a lot of the stuff, to me, was just unnecessary moves just thrown in, which I guess is basically Mexican wrestling. I wasn't too good at catching guys outside either. I had a couple of these nights over there. But I just learned basically from wrestling different guys and watching tapes and studying.
Was the travel schedule hard there? Or?
Very, very hard, especially when you don't speak Spanish. And they initially, when I went there was nobody to take me around. So the transportation mode there is taking buses. So I show up at the bus station and I have the name on a piece of paper and me go here, give me a ticket. Right. And it wasn't strange to do 40 or 50 hours a week on a bus. You go to a town, 6 hours, wrestle 6 hours back. So it was just, it was a hell of an impact on me because going there, not speaking the language, the food was a big problem for us because just and nothing against Mexico, but the quality of the food, what I was accustomed to up to that point, wasn't the same as in Mexico. And the same thing happened with Love Machine and Konnan and Vampiro and Jericho. So it was just coming from the States and going there was just a big adjustment you had to make.
How did the whole Black Magic gimmick come about?
Black Magic was the name I just came up with one day. Somebody suggested Black El Dorado, and I was like, nah, that's stupid. So Black Magic just popped into my mind, and
Right.
yeah, it was nothing big. It wasn't a big deal.
Now, you were their world champion. What do you think was your key to your success as being a champion?
The key, I would say, let me see. I would say at that time, because I went there as a face, and I was tagging up a lot at that time with Vampiro. And when they changed me heel, I was feuding with Vampiro, and it just made more sense business-wise for me to have the title, because they had a lot of faces, Rayo de Jalisco, Vampiro, Atlantis, who it was more beneficial for the company for me to have the belt, because obviously people pay to see the faces take the belt away from the heels,
Right.
not vice versa. So being a foreigner and arrogant and just having the natural heat that I had with Vampiro at that time, I guess the office thought it was in the best interest to give me the belt.
What was Vampiro like outside the ring?
Wild. He was wild. It's funny now, as I do this interview in February of 2002. He's happily married. He's got a daughter. But I'm the godfather of. But back then, if either one of us was to sit down and speak with you and to say, okay, one of you two guys will be married in 6-7 years from now, I would have said me, and he would have said me, because he was just a maniac. But he taught me a lot, and he really didn't know anything about the business, because he went to Mexico wanting to become a wrestler, and went there and learned to wrestle actually in Mexico. But he would just constantly express to me, Norman, this is a business, and it's not about winning matches. It's not about doing fancy high spots. It's about getting paid. So, he made a hell of an impression on me, having so little time in the business and just being so smart in that aspect. But him and I established a great relationship. We got 100 stories that we could tell.
Do you have any you want to talk about now? I ask you that.
Just wild stuff. Obviously with girls.
Right.
He was wild in the sense that in Mexico, the wrestlers tend to be real conservative and passive. But he was the guy that first started going there and demanding getting paid up front. We'd be in the locker room many times, and there's a packed house. And it was like, if you don't give me my money right now, I ain't going in the ring, okay? And while you're getting mine, get the black guy's money too, because he's not going in either.
Wow.
Because at that time, he was so old and has so much stroke, he knew that there were certain things that he could do and get away with. And since him and I were close, he took it upon himself to take care of me, which I appreciate. But, just wild. And,
any good road stories?
I mean, as far as the impact that he had on wrestling in Mexico, people say, about when Elvis was coming up and the Beatles. I remember wrestling with him as a tag team partner and leaving the building. We got in the car, and I was literally scared for my life. There were girls just pushing the car. I thought they were literally going to tip the car over. And I remember one night, we left the building, it's packed, people are pushing the car. We had to go over a mountain to get to the next town. And we're driving up. It's about 20 minutes or so. And I hear bam, 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 bam. So I'm thinking we got a flat tire. Guy pulls over, we get out. And there's a guy on top of the roof that had literally held on since the time that we left the building.
Oh, man.
And Vampiro, being the mean bastard that he was, made him get up and walk.
That's great. Talk about the lucha scene at the time out of the ring. What was it like? I mean, were you ever approached by TripleA?
Since Konnan was the guy that took me to Mexico.
Right.
And the ironic thing about Konnan and myself is that we weren't friends, or I shouldn't say that we weren't friends. We weren't good friends in the sense that we didn't know each other for 4 or 5 years. He just saw me in St. Louis, Missouri. We wrestled a match. He liked me and he invited me to come down. So he wasn't happy with the situation in EMLL at that time. And as I stated before, Konnan is very ambitious. So he took it upon himself with Antonio Pena to start a new promotion. So he left the promotion, and I was leery because a few of the guys had told me that over the course of the years, there had been many companies that would pop up in opposition to CMLL. They would last 6 months, 3 years, 5 years, but eventually they all fell. I had turned heel at that time. I had the title. I was making great money. And I didn't feel it was necessary for me to leave just to make $100 more a week or $200 more a week. And and even to this day, I still feel that Konnan was a little hurt that that I didn't have enough trust in him for me to go to AAA with him. And I've explained to him that I trusted him because I knew he wouldn't screw me, but I didn't trust the company and the future of the company.
Right.
Because I didn't know what could happen. You know, he had the best intentions in the world, and I know obviously he wouldn't go to a company if he thought it was going to fold. So, but I just decided to stay, you know, and it was nothing against him because I love him to death, but I just decided it was better for me if I stayed with CMLO.
As AAA grew, did you have any questions?
I did at times because Art Barr was there and he left. Eddie Guerrero left. There was another guy. I forgot his name. I feel so bad. Oh Lord, Madonna's boyfriend, the guy that had passed away.
Louis Spicoli.
Yeah, Louis Spicoli was there, and I'd bump into him from time to time, and he'd tell me how good it was. And Art Barr would make it a point, you know, to here's my check. Look at my check. So how much I made this week.
Right.
So I was like somewhat skeptical, but you know, my mother always taught me in this life, you want all, you lose all. So even though at times they made a little bit more than me, I was still happy and satisfied with what I had. I just decided to stay.
Who were some of the favorite guys that you worked with down there?
Negro Casas, Ultimo Dragon, Silver King and Tejano, which are tremendous. His brother, Dr. Wagner, you know, amazing guy. When Chris Benoit was there, Haku, Vampiro, you know, there's a bunch of guys.
What was Art Barr like outside the ring?
And Art, God bless him, was the most workingest guy I've ever met in my life. He was a different breed. He was the first guy that I saw that went to Mexico, but had the American mentality as far as how to put a match together, how to work the people, how to work the camera angles. There were so many things that he was doing. I was like, what is he doing? As I watched him, but once you saw it on TV, you saw the result of what he was doing. And but he was just a wild guy.
Right.
Learned a lot from him too about things that how can I phrase this, that the wrestlers would do once they had a lot of money and access time to do absolutely nothing. So you know, and I was saddened by his death. It was a loss because I know right now if he was still alive, he'd be here working with us here or with Vince McMahon, but he would definitely be a success because all the guys that were in Mexico at that time, Konnan, Vampiro, Val Venus, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho have all come here and done well. So,
Good.
And I know that Art would have been one of us here.
You talked about Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho down there. What are your memories of them in Mexico?
First time I wrestled Chris Jericho, it was in a town called Monterrey, which is in north of Mexico. I was supposed to have a title match with Vampiro. It was during the time that I had the belt. And Vampiro was hurt. So he actually made an appearance in the building. It was a bull ring. And the promoter told me since Vampiro was hurt, I was going to wrestle El Güero, which means blonde in Spanish.
Right.
So I said, who? And he said, that guy there. And it turned out to be Chris. And he was just starting in like, I guess at that time you consider it like a minor league of wrestling. It wasn't CMLL, but it was a minor league of wrestling in the north of Mexico. And he was there with a guy called Mike Lewinsky, who was Canadian Tiger.
Right.
And they were doing a tag team deal up there. And it was funny, the first match we had, and I'd never seen Chris work, and I don't believe, he may have seen me work in Mexico, but at that time I was just kicking and punching and everything. But the first match that we had, actually everything clicked, and him and I, we established a relationship, and eventually he moved down and became one of the employees of CMLO, and he did very well for himself there. And Chris Benoit, he was working for the UWA at that time, and the company folded, and he came to CMLO. And Chris is a gentleman. He really is one of the nicest gentlemen I've met in this business, if not the nicest.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.